welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and just another extraordinary looking puzzle, this time by the constructor Nordy, called Hopscotch Remix. You can see we don't appear to have a great deal of information in the grid, which seems to be a running theme. This was yesterday's puzzle, for those of you who haven't seen the video. Yup, that was it. A complete miracle Sudoku with absolutely no clues at all, and just some rules about indexing. Unbelievable. Many of you, the comments on this puzzle and yesterday's video have been astonishing already, but the puzzle is by Farkov and Top Autism, and they deserve all the plaudits in the world. It's just mad where these puzzles are going. And let me show you actually some of the feedback on this one. This is today's puzzle. This puzzle is unbelievably clever. Fistamafel. It amazes me how strong this whisper square condition is. What a beautiful minimalistic puzzle. Damasosos 92. I did Damasosos's puzzle. I want to say on Monday. Might have been Monday. It's just one of the most beautiful Sudokus I've ever witnessed. Exquisite. I mean, it really is just astonishing. These constructors who make us sort of, they make us believe in the divine, because, you know, they're constantly making us look up to the heavens, and sometimes it's like if we reached out our fingers, we might even be able to touch the face of God. It is just mad. It is completely mad where Sudoku is going at the moment. And I'll read you the rules to today's puzzle in a moment or two. What else can we talk about before we get on to that? I want to talk about birthdays, I think. Let's talk about birthdays. Will, it's your birthday today, and I know this because your girlfriend Bianca wrote to us. So, Will, I understand you're a bit of a puzzle fanatic, and you follow the channel closely. I'm delighted to hear that, and I hope, my friend, that you have an absolutely brilliant birthday today, with chocolate cake, of course. And then I think it's Nevi, but it could be Neve as well. Your partner Kanth wrote to us and said that you'd appreciate a shout out. So Neve or Nevi, happy birthday as well. Now, the only other thing I need to tell you about today is what we've got going on over on Patreon, and this is particularly relevant for our younger viewers, because with the help of Ashish Kumar, who some of you may know, he's a Grandmaster puzzle setter over on grandmasterpuzzles.com, brilliant solver, brilliant setter, and Ashish has basically constructed some puzzles for us with our younger viewers in mind. It's sort of a series of mostly classic Sudokus, themed around Super Mario Brothers, given the movie that's out soon. And probably for our really young viewers, they might need their parents to help them. But that hunt, we're going to try and release it tomorrow. It's 4 puzzles in all. It's not monstrously long. And we hope it will be, well, it will enthuse our younger viewers, and at least let them have a try at some of these wonderful Sudoku variants. So yeah, look out for that. It's coming tomorrow over on Patreon. And of course, the main thing we've got going on Patreon is the Knightmare on Sudoku Street by the Sudoku Skunkworks. And I've opened my window today, so I'm going to have creaky doors and windows. I'm sorry about that, but it's quite stuffy. I've got some names of solvers who solved all 19 puzzles. Well done to Kapateki, Lady Ruatha, Anthony Akutsu, Frank Levinson, Daryl Gilbert, Ned Bartlett, Jessica Friesen and Winnie Schmidt, Stephen Lip, Tran Chi Hui, Martin Chargod, John Reed, Mark Greenwell, Mako and Rin Shirasawa, Wesley Spikes, Balint Rago, Chris Tippett, and Lenore Thor Jensen, although that last name I really might have got that. I should have asked Mark, actually, with his Danish roots, how to pronounce that. I'm sure it's a Scandinavian name, but I probably have butchered the pronunciation. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Now, let us have a look at Hopscotch Remix and see what Nordy has in store for us. These are the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Every 3x3 box contains one hidden 2x2 region called a whisper square. In a whisper square, orthogonally adjacent digits must have a difference of 5 or greater. Whisper squares must not touch each other orthogonally, but they may touch diagonally. And within each cage, the sum of digits inside whisper squares equals the sum of digits outside whisper squares. And that's it. So just with a given 1 and a given 9, that rule set apparently produces complete magic. Now, I clipped an example from the Logic Masters page. Oh, it's a couple of examples actually, now I look at it. So let's have a look at these. I think the coloured cells here are the whisper squares. So you can see, as we move around the whisper square, any orthogonal domino contains digits that are at least 5 apart. So 1 and 7, they're 6 apart. 1 and 8 are 7 apart. Oh yeah, and there's this cage rule, isn't there? Oh, I see. So 9, which is outside the whisper square in this box, is the sum of 8 plus 1, which are the digits inside the whisper square. Let's have a look at this one. Yeah, so 3 plus 8 is 11, 7 plus 4 is 11, and within the whisper square in this sort of box 2, we have 3, which must be next to 8 and 9, because the digits need to be at least 5 apart, and 1 sitting also next to an 8 and a 9. So I sort of get it. I'm just slightly surprised that it solves. Anyway, do have a go. The way to play, as usual, is to click the link under the video. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now, let's get cracking. So within each 3x3 box, there is a 2x2. Right, so I think the way we meant to start this then is to notice that the centre of every single 3x3 box must be part of that box's whisper square. So I am going to choose the colour of my favourite colour. Fluorescent green is going to be the colour of our whisper squares. So all of these cells are, and several of these, look, are in cages. So all of these are in whisper squares. It has the feel to me, this puzzle, like it's something to do with the old classic Sudoku technique, which was called empty rectangles. So that's a technique whereby you sort of identify within a 3x3 box a 2x2 area where a digit cannot go. And then, so say this was the 2x2 in box 3, then you would know that those digits, or the digits that couldn't go in the whisper square, had to go in these cells, and that could lead to deductions. So I'm wondering if this is about 5s, because here is a secret. A whisper square is a little bit similar to a whisper line, and some of you who've been following the channel for a while may have seen this constraint before, but it's normally presented as a line constraint rather than a 2x2 constraint. But I think it works the same here. We cannot put a 5 in a whisper square, can we? Let's just convince ourselves of that. If this square was a 5, yeah, it just doesn't work. I mean, these two squares have to be at least 5 away from 5, so this square would have to be 10 or higher or 0 or lower, and that, obviously there are no Sudoku digits that meet that criteria. So 5 in each of these boxes has to live outside of the whisper squares. Oh yes, and the whisper squares can't touch themselves, can they? So if that was a whisper square, let's just think about that for a second. If that was a whisper square, whoa, poltergeist alert. If this was a whisper square, these two couldn't be a whisper square. Oh, so if this was a whisper square, that square would be a whisper square. Because these are sort of shielded from being whisper squares, so it pushes the whisper square in box 3 over to the right hand side, and then that would be really useful, because then that cell would have to be not a whisper square. Hang on. Okay, let's start there, in fact. How could that cell be part of a whisper square? It can't be, because if that's a whisper square, that whole cage gets covered in green. And I think the rules said that we have to have, within each cage, The digits that are in the whisper squares have to have the same sum as the digits that are not in the whisper squares. So we can't fully coat one cage in one colour. Yes, so this square needs to be not whisper square. So let's make that yellow, perhaps. I don't think that does allow us to propagate our whisper square. That cell's got the same profile, hasn't it? If that square is whisper square, then we'd cover that whole cage in green. Oh, this one's different because it crosses a 3x3 box boundary. Good grief. So how do you do this then? I'm just scanning the rules again. Every 3x3 box contains one hidden 2x2 region. Oh, right. Here's a point. Here is a point as well. Oh, it might be empty rectangles. This. Oh, sorry, my creaking door. I didn't realise when I. I'm wondering whether I should close my window. Hopefully the squeaking isn't going to get too annoying. But one thought I've just had is that 4s and 6s are also going to struggle to appear in the 2x2s, aren't they? Because if we put 4 in, 4 is the monogamous digit. Well, 4 and 6 are the most monogamous digits in this puzzle, and that is because 4 only has one partner that it can accompany in a domino. Now, if you think about 4, what Sudoku digits are at least 5 away from 4? Well, there is only one, and it's 9. So if we do try and put 4 in a green square, we'll have to put double 9 into it. And if we put 6 in, we'll have to put double 1 into it. So because 4 and 6 have only one natural partner, you can't put 4 or 6 in the whisper squares. So now, in terms of our sort of empty rectangle type thinking, it's not just 5s that have to live. It's not just 5s that have to live in the yellow cells. It's also 4s and 6s. Hang on a minute. I'm sure that's some. Let me just come back to this again. Let's just hypothesize this. What is that doing? So that's putting 4s, 5s and 6s in those cells. It's making these two cells also yellow. Yeah, so what you couldn't have in this situation is something like that, could you? Well, no, you actually can have that. I was wondering, what you can't have then is a 4, 5 and 6 looking at this box, looking at the yellow cells in this box, because obviously there's only going to be 2 other yellow cells available, in which you'd have to put the 4, the 5 and the 6. But all of this, right, the trouble here is that all of this logic that I think might emerge relies on us knowing where the green cells live. Sorry, I'm not quite understanding this at the moment. Maybe it's... Do I know something about the sort of... Oh, right. I know one thing about this, which is that there's at least... Well... No, actually I don't. What I was about to say was total nonsense. I'm sorry. What I was noticing is that I can't... But I never wanted to cover this whole box in green anyway. But obviously if that's green, that has to be yellow, because we'd have double green. Oh, double green is going to add up to at least Yeah, that's interesting. Double green is going to add up to at least 8, isn't it? Because I can't put 6. But if we look at these two cells in a cage now, these two cells have to be one low digit, by which I mean a digit that's lower than 5, and one high digit, i.e. a digit that's higher than 5, because these two have to be 5 apart themselves. And also, neither of them can be 6 or 4. So if we put 1 into one of these, we couldn't put 6 into the other, because that would force this to be 1. So the minimum this would be 1, 7, which add up to 8, which would make this have to be an 8. But there's no, I don't think there's a problem with that. So, okay, so the other possibility here is that neither of these is green, in which case we'd have greens there, which would be the most interesting in terms of forcing greens in the rest of the grid. Because if that's green, none of those can be green, which would force, whoopsie, which would force that and that to be green. Oh, I see. Oh, hang on. Right. Oh, right. I've got something that's quite interesting. Right. So what I just did was I hypothesized this. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's weird. Right. So this is very, very peculiar, but very interesting. So we said that 4s, 5s, and 6s cannot go in green cells. But I was looking at this row. When I made this green, it doesn't matter. Yeah, this is really interesting. Right, so it doesn't matter. Sorry, and I realise I'm corpsing here because I'm just trying to make sure what I'm about to tell you is correct. However I choose to place, this is right. This is so interesting. However you place a 2x2, there are basically 4 positions, aren't there, for 2x2s in any of these 3x3 boxes. You can have the lower left one, the upper left one, the upper right one, and the lower right one. But look, whichever one of those you take, if you study what you do, you always pick up one cell from this. That's one. You pick up one of those, and you always pick up one of these. It doesn't matter how you do it. If you pick those two, you get those two. If you pick this one, you get those two. So you always get one of these, and you always get one of these. But that means that in row 2, however the 2x2s are disposed in their boxes, you're always going to have a gap. Only one of those is able to be green. Only one of those is able to be green. Only one of those is able to be green. And therefore there will be 3 yellows in this row. Because it's a stronger condition than I just said. I said only one of these will be green. What I should have said is exactly one of those will be green. Exactly one of those will be green. Exactly one of those will be green. So exactly one of those is yellow. Exactly one of those is yellow. Exactly one of those is yellow. So that means that 4, 5, and 6, which must appear somewhere in row 2, are in yellow. They are the only digits in yellow. And that logic also applies in column 2. Well, yes, it applies to... Yeah, so it applies everywhere. There's sort of a lattice going on. Let me try and draw the lattice that we've got this effect going on in. It's going on in these positions. We have a lattice of rows and columns where the yellow cells have to be 4, 5 and 6. So I know one of those squares is a 4, 5 or a 6 because one of those must be yellow. If both of them were yellow, that would be a 9, I suppose, because that would be a 4, 5 pair adding up to 9. Oh, that's it. I've done it. Right. Okay. I've got it. I've got it. Well, I've got something in this box. I might be able to get something there as well. But let's... what we've just said... Yeah, that's really clever. That's really, really clever. Okay, so what we've just said is that the yellow cells along the red lines are only allowed to be 4, 5 and 6. We know one of these at least is yellow. So if we make one of these yellow, let's make it that one, then we know the other one has to be green. Because, sorry, that's actually not true. But if I make one of them yellow and then try and make... No, I've got this the wrong way round. I'm not explaining this very well. If I try and make one of these green, the other one is forced to be yellow. And that doesn't work. Because if I make this green, this is forced to be yellow. We know it's a 4, 5 or a 6 because it's on a red line. But those cells we've worked out had to add up to at least 8. And 8 is greater than 4, 5, 6. There is a knowledge bomb for you. So that doesn't work. And that means it's not possible for this to consist of one of each colour. It must be double yellow. And if it's double yellow, and given these digits are selected from 4, 5 and 6, and there's only one green that they have to add up to, they must be a 4, 5 pair, and that cell is a 9. And there we go, we're off. We have a digit. We've improved upon the given positions, the given 1, 9, and we've earned our... But more interesting, I suppose, than that is now a whisper square. So we've got a whisper square here. We've got yellow digits here. We've got yellow digits here. We've got this whisper square now. Well, it can never get to that square, so it must take this square, which means that square's yellow, which means this square's green, which is placing this whisper square. Right, so that one's just got placed. All of these become yellow. All of these become yellow. This square has got to be a high number because it's got to be... It's sort of opposite, isn't it? It's opposite the high number here. So this is going to be low and therefore this is going to be high. So these squares have got to be from 1, 2 and 3. We know they can't have 4 because 4 is monogamous. This square's got to be green, so this square's got to, because that square can't be green, obviously. This square can't now be green, so this square's become green. Right, so those two squares are 4, 5 and 6. Does this puzzle now? I would absolutely love it if it just collapses, because that is such a beautiful idea for a break-in. Now, let me think. Okay, I can't quite see. Well, that's got to be green because again, we can't fit. We need to fit our 2 by 2 now into either that one or that one. So this square's yellow, so that square's green. Therefore, oh, I know what it'll be. It'll be this. Both of those have now become green. And we worked out the minimum value of 2 green cells to sort of an orthogonal green domino is 8. So that is at least 8 or 9. And this, well, it's either 1, 7 or 2. Oh, could it be 1, 8? Well, okay, yeah, let's think about this whisper line now. I don't think there can be a 3. If... Oh no, hang on, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Trying to get my head around how to... Oh no, well hang on, if that's 8 or 9, nah, I can do it a different way. What I was trying to do in my brain was rule out 3 from here by reference to the fact that I needed that to add up to 8 or 9. But there's a better reason than that. If I do put 3 in the green anywhere, its partners in the orthogonal dominoes. Look, if I make that 3, these two squares would have to be an 8, 9 pair. And that won't work because that will break that digit. So there is no 3 in there. And that means that the low digits, and there must be 2 of them in this whisper square, have to be 1 and 2. And this 1 means there's a 1 in one of those squares. And that means, because that's going to have to be opposite the 2, it'll be in the diagonal corner opposite. The 1 will have to be opposite, in the diagonal corner opposite a 2. So there's a 2 in one of those squares. And that must, 7, right, so 7 must live in here, mustn't it? Because it can't be an 8, 9 pair, and we can't include 6. Oh, this is weird. Right, so there's definitely 1, 2, and 7 in here now. And then either 8 or 9. Is that going to help us to crack it? Might do. Don't know. I'm not sure. It feels like that's almost useful. I think in this, we've got to remember that wherever we have red lines, yellow squares on red lines, we're allowed to paint in 4, 5, and 6, aren't we? In case that's going to help us. What about 1? I suppose we could do some Sudoku of all things. It is outrageous being made to do Sudoku after only 28 minutes of Nordy's Sudoku puzzle, but there we are. Okay. 2, 1. What do we do with our newfound knowledge? Is it going to be straightforward to conclude more things about this now? There is the question. I can probably... Oh, it's obvious. Oh, it's totally obvious. Yes, okay. That cell, how could that possibly be green? It can't be green because that's going to make that yellow. But we know that yellow along the red line is a 4, 5 or a 6, but I know 2 greens add up to at least 8. So that square has to be yellow. And if that square has to be yellow, that positions the whisper square in box 4. And therefore that's not allowed to be green, which we probably could have seen before. That's not allowed to be green. Sorry, so that's yellow. The same thing must work here, mustn't it? Because this is a red line. So if I make that green, I have to make that yellow, and that's going to do exactly the same, or make it for exactly the same difficulty. I was about to make that green, but that might not. I need to think about whether that's justified. But I've got the whisper square in box 2. This is a 4, 5 or a 6. This is a 4, 5 or a 6. So if this was green, what are we saying? if this is green... Oh, actually, this is green. Oh, no, it's really clever. It's much cleverer than I'd appreciated. Both of these are green. Because if both of them were yellow, what digit would we include? They're both on red lines, so they've got to be from 4, 5 or 6. And the only way of making them sum to a single digit total would be to make them a 4, 5 pair and plonk 9 into both of those squares, and that won't work. So these have to be green. This is so beautiful. So that's green. These are all yellow. Now, right, let's think about these digits then. Because these have to be low digits in whisper terminology. Because we have to add these to get this. So these definitely have to be from 1, 2 and 3. We're not allowed to put 4 in green. So this is not 6, because we can't put double 3 here. So one of these is a 3. Is that true? That feels true to me. One of these is a 3. Because if not, that's a 1, 2 pair, and it would need to add up to 3, and 3 isn't a valid yellow digit. So this... Right, and this being low does the whisper square, doesn't it? Now this has got to be low, so these have got to be high. They've got to be 7s, 8s and 9s, and that can't be 9. Okay, so that's presumably very interesting. I'm trying to work out whether I can get 3 fixed in this row, but I don't think I can. I might be wrong, but I think we can just repeat this logic on this cell. Because these 2 digits have to add up to that square, so these both have to be low. And they can't both be 3, so that can't be 6. And now if we're adding up to 4 or 5, we can't use a 1, 2 pair. So one of these is 3. I don't quite know how to show this. I'm going to do that, I think. So, hang on. Right, so look at this whisper square. We know it hasn't got 6 in, and it hasn't got 9 in, so that's a 7, 8 pair. And if that's true, because there's a 7 in one of those squares, you can't put 3 in either of... No, that's fine, that's fine. So you can't put 3 in either of these squares. And if you can't put 3 in either of these squares, but one of these, we worked out in that cage there had to be a 3, and in that cage you have to be a 3. We know where the 3 goes. Okay, so I couldn't do it by reference to this row, but I could do it using some magic in this box. So now if that's a 3, that's not a 3. This can't, neither of those can be 7 anymore. So this apparently has to be 8. That has to be 9. That's 8 in the corner. So this has to be a 1, 7 pair. It's the only way we can make a valid domino in green add up to only 8. And the 1 must go there. So this is going to finish. 1, 7. I mean, not the puzzle, but that's got to be a 2 next to a 7. And that's got to be a 9, because you can't put 6 in a green whisper square. Oh, this is so clever. It's just mad. Absolutely mad. Come on. That's a 1, in fact, isn't it? So that isn't resolving this digit. Although 8 is only allowed to be in one of 2 places in box 1. 3 has to be in one of these places in box 3. So we don't get a 3 in the corner there. But we might get 1 here, look. That could be a 3 in the corner. Right, but let's think about this now. Right, so these 2 digits are different. Because these 2 digits are different. So one of these is a 4, one of these is a 5. Does that help me? Don't think so. I'm not sure. There's got to be a low digit in this domino, and that low digit must now be a 2. So that... Oh no, we don't know, do we? We don't know whether it's 2 with 7 or 2 with 8. It's one of those things. Ah, this is a 3, so that's got to be low in this whisper square, so that's got to be a 1 or a 2. These have both got to be high, so there's 7, 8, 9. That is not 9. Okay, I'm not sure if I can do anything with that. Okay. What about... That's not 3. How do we go? How are we going to resolve the 4s, 5s and 6s in this puzzle? I'm just... Maybe I shouldn't worry about that, but that suddenly feels quite worrying to me. 3 in the middle box is only in one of 2 places. Okay, so... How... this is... It doesn't feel like it can possibly finish from here. It must be something to do with that cage. But... Ah, here's a little point about this domino. I don't think I can make this a 3, can I? Because if I make that a... Oh, no, I can. No, I can't. Hang on. If I make that a 3, then this square can be an 8. That's fine. But where do I put the 9 that must be next to the 3 in this box? Because that 9 is going to have to be diagonally opposite this high digit, so it's going to be there or there, and it's going to hit this. So there is no 3 in this domino, but it must have a low digit in it, which is not a 1. So this has got 2 in it, which might be interesting. Can't quite work out why. It does mean that 3 in this column is down here. So this must now be a 3-8 pair. That's all it can be, because 9 is not available as the high digit down here, and 3 obviously needs to be 5 away from the digit. So this is 3-8, so this is 2-7. Wow. So can we do something with that? The answer apparently is no. Okay. We do, though, know that if 7 is in the whisper square in this box, then the low digits in that whisper square are going to have to be 7 and 1. Sorry, they're going to have to be 2 and 1, because 3 is never going to be able to go next to the whisper square. And we know that the 1 is over on this side, so we know that's a whisper square. There is a 1 in here, along with a digit that, well, it could be, I think it could be 8 or 9 actually, but that can't be 9. Can we do better than that? That feels like we're right on the cusp of proving something clever there. These 2 squares are yellow for what that's worth. That square's yellow. Nine is living over there in one of these squares. This 3 can't be next to a 7, so that's got to be an 8. That's got to be a 9. Ah, ha 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 ha. Right, here we go. Now we've knocked that down by Sudoku to being a 1-8 pair. Is that helpful? That 8 is giving me an 8 here. That is useful, because then we know that we can do the 2 and the 7, because we can just fill them in. That 2 gives me a 1 here, which gives me a 2 here. That's going to fix this as 4, this as 5. Knocks a 5 out of here. 4 out of here. 7 comes in here by the virtue of the 8. Good grief. Here we go. Come on. Right, these 2 squares have got to be a 5-6 pair for this row. We know that the low digit, which appears in this box, there's either a domino there or there in this box's whisper square. We don't know where it is yet, but we know that it's going to have a 1 as its low digit because 2 and 3 have gone. So the 1 must be in one of those two positions. Ooh, which almost looks like it's trying to accompany an 8, look. Ooh, can we really prove that? Maybe not. Maybe not, not sure. Okay. 8's come out from down here, so this has become a 2-7 pair, locking 7 into the whisper square. So this has got to have a 1 on it somewhere, and that 1 is going to be in one of those positions, and that 1 knocks a 1 out of here, so that makes this a 1, and that must be in the whisper square. This is absolutely ridiculous. So now these are not in the whisper square. And this is a high digit, which is not a 9 or a 7, so that is an 8. Good grief. I'm sure there are sort of smoother ways of doing this, but I have to say I'm having such a ball doing this. It is so ridiculous. No, oh no, that can be green. I was about to say that's not going to work, but actually it would work, wouldn't it? We know that there's a 9. We know there's a 9 because there's a 3 in this one. This one's whisper square. There's got to be a 9 in one of those two positions because it's got to have to be diagonally opposite the 8. So that's no longer a 9. 9 is in one of two places in box 7. And the other low, oh no, we don't know. There could be a 2 over here as part of the whisper square, which would have to go in that square. Oh, what's going on in this column? 4 and 6. No, but we don't know. There's no whisper constraints applying to those. Okie dokie. So how do we do this then? We could argue that how do you do this? Oh, I see, there's a 1 looking at that, so that's 2. No, that's not how you do it. 7 is in one of those two squares by Sudoku. I have no idea how I'm meant to know which one of those squares it's actually in. Well, 1 in this box, look, by our old friend Sudoku, has to go in that whisper square. So slowly but surely we're getting the whisper squares sorted out, which is potentially going to help us at some stage. We may end up having to colour these 4s, 5s and 6s, I think. That's sort of, it feels to me like that's where this is going. Um, 2 in this box has to be there. So 2 in this box is in one of those positions. I have got a lot of 2s actually. Right. That cell is suddenly interesting to me. That sees all the low digits, sees 1, 2 and 3. So that cell cannot be green, because if it was green, it would be in the low position. So that's got to be yellow, which means that's yellow, which means this is double green. Now that means, well, 9 is not available to go in here. So this has got to be, it's got to be 7, and that must accompany 2. So that's a 2-7 pair. Oh, which means that's a 2-7 pair, which means that's not a 2. For what that's worth, that's definitely not a 2 anymore. It's going to be, oh, hang on, yes, it's going to be this. Oh no, but that's not as helpful. This square has got to be 4, 5 or 6 because it is on a red line, but that one could be anything at all, but that square has to be grey. Oh, it's so beautiful, because now, knowing these two are yellow, I need to make sure this cage has 2 colours in it. So that's got to be green. Looks like it's going to be a 9, isn't it? Well, this is definitely not a 9, because 9 plus 4, 5 or 6 would be a 2-digit number, which is not going to work. So that's 9, that's 9. This square's got to either be 4, 5 or 3 to make the maths work. This square's now green, completing our whisper box for this box down here. And that's high, so that's high, which means that's low. Oh, yeah, no, that does do that. 7 and 2 go in there. By Sudoku, this square... Oh, that's so gorgeous again. Look, by Sudoku, that's a 7. It's in the wrong position to be on a whisper square. So those become green. These become yellow. That's got to be a high digit, which is not a 7. So that's a 9. That's a 9 by Sudoku. Wow. Absolutely wow. Well, no, that's got to be a 1 because we've got 7 in the whisper square. So this is 4, 5 or 6. This is 4, 5 or 6. Let's make sure we've got all our yellow digits that are on red lines at least identified. Okay, and what is it that's going to do the disambiguation here? Oh, I tell you something, I haven't filled in this digit yet. That surprises me. So I've got 1 digit left in a green box, and I don't think it's resolved by the fact it's next to 1 or 2. I think it could be 7 or 8. So how do we do this? Let's double click 9s. I've done all the 9s. Double click 8s. I've got several 8s. I've got 2 left to place. I see. So I've got an X-wing of 8s left in these positions. That's certainly not resolved. That square's not a 9 though. What about 7s? Oh, very many. Oh, 7 then that box is fixed. I can do that. So that does fix that, and that's going to unwind my X-wing. So now I've done all the 8s out of nowhere. Now, can we do more 7s? Not quite, I don't think. Looks like 7s have got, again, we get an X-wing of 7s left to place. 1s? How many of those have we got? Loads. Yes. Look, where does the last 1 go? Thereby disambiguated my 7s. So now I've got all my 7s and I've got all my 1s. What about 2s? I have not got all of those, but I should have got them all by Sudoku. That's got to be a 2. 3s. There are some 3s. I remember putting them in. But, oh, I haven't been looking for 3s in... there's a chance for a 3 in the corner here. Let's just double click those 3s again. So 3... Yes. Oh, no. I'm not getting a 3 in the corner because I've just seen where 3 goes in this box. And the answer is in one of those 2 positions. Which means 3 seems to have to go there. Which means 3 goes here, so it doesn't go in the corner. Which means that's a 3. Aha. Right, so if that's a 3, that seems to have to be a 6 then, just by Sudoku, which means that's a 6. So we might get away without colouring our 4s, 5s and 6s, or at least not yet. So 6 is now one of these 2 squares. So that's not a 6, so that's got to be a 4 or a 5, because we've only got 4, 5 and 6 to place. We're going to have 4, 5 and 6 everywhere, are we? That's 4 or 6, that's 4 or 6. Let's go back to 3s and make sure that we've used them as much as we can. 3 is in one of these 2 positions. Oh, so maybe it's something to do with this domino having to add up to 9. Or maybe it's not. No, it is. It is. Well, it sort of is. Where does 5 go in this box? 5 has to be in one of those two cells, and that means, look, where does the 5 go in this box? It has to go in the domino, which means that must be a 4-5 pair. So let's put that in. That's fixing this is a 3, and this is a 6, and this is a 4, and this is a 6. So this has become a 4, so that's become a 6. So that becomes a 6. That becomes a 6. It might be the 4s and 5s we end up having to colour, I think. That's now not a 6. I hope we're not going to end up with some horrible deadly pattern here. It has a, I've got the feeling it might do. That's a 3. It's the only cell that can be. So that's a 3. Oh, 6 is placed in box 5. So 6 and 5 go in. Now that looks helpful actually. 5, 4. 5, 4, 4, 5, 5, 4, 5, 6. Boom. 0. I did it in 0. No, my clock must have not started for some reason. I don't know why that is. I can assure you it did take me longer than 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Well, what a brilliant puzzle. Hopscotch. Well, I get that because that's what you seem to have to do. You sort of hop from stone to stone. Finding these 2x2, it's like Frogger. It's sort of Sudoku Frogger. But that is such a beautiful puzzle. There's so many aspects of this that I admire. I admire the fact that it starts off with sort of a meta break-in. You have to think about how to position or the possible ways of positioning the green 2x2s. And then you realise you can get this red lattice effect. And that is crucial for this one, which forced the shape of this. And then things started to flurry, didn't they? And there were lovely touches, like the fact that you had to have a 3 in these cages, and then neither of those could be a 3 because of this given 9. And the 2x2 not being able to have a 9 in it meant you couldn't put a 3 in the whisper square. Yeah. What a sick puzzle. That is absolutely brilliant, Nordy. Take a bow. Loved it. Loved it. We did indeed get to look at the heavens, didn't we? Let me know in the comments how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.